Audio. Nikki, we are all set.
Okay. All right, so I am calling to order the July 21st BOSAC meeting in 2025. Tony, if you could do roll call.
Yeah. Matt Powers. Here. Kristen Joyce.
Here.
David Rossi. Here. Nikki LaRochelle.
Here.
Chris Tennell.
Here.
Bobby Zinka. And Jay Beckerman.
Okay. Any issues with the June 16th minutes? Motion. Thanks, Bobby.
Second.
Against, great. Okay.
Does that make an 8?
Yes.
All right, any changes to our agenda? Good there. Okay. Public comment. Jeff, Sarah, want to make a speech?
Yeah, why don't you come on up and speak into the mic, say your name and.
Actually wondering,
Should we
so
just-
typically we hold comments for the were you going to stay for the actual discussion? Yeah, typically we do this for non-agenda. Is everyone okay to wait to hear from Sarah? Okay, we'll hold off if that works for you. Great. Okay. Yes, it is, Jeff. Speak wisely.
My name is Jeff Carlson, and I just
Say
came.
my name, Jeff.
What's that?
There's a button right on top of that mic.
What, do you want me to turn it off?
Mic.
It's on.
That's his dulcet sleepy time story voice.
It's on.
Jeff, that's so people on Zoom can hear you. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I just came to say that I think that BOSAC is doing a splendid job, and I appreciate all the hard work that you guys put into our community.
Thank you.
Jeff,
Thank you, alumni.
Jeff?
riding your coattails, really.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
What would Jeff do?
Yeah. Okay, with that, we're already on to staff summary. Tony?
Yeah, just jump right in here. Do you guys have any questions or any more information on those updates? One thing I do just kind of want to just paraphrase a little bit is the Copper Canyon survey results. And I think we got a pretty good response from the surrounding residents on that. I feel pretty happy about that. And we would like to bring this to our August meeting, again, for you guys to decide upon and think about if a trail makes sense in this area. And looking at the survey results, I just kind of want to frame it that, the whole concept of the survey was really to solicit information, right? And get feedback from the residents. It wasn't like a count vote of 50, 45 said no, 55 said yes. So we're going with that. It was more of just a way to collect feedback from the residents in that area. And the overall intentions, of our open space program, when we bought that Copper Canyon parcel, it was to, prevent development and increase open space and provide public access if possible. So those were our main goals of that property. So, as you look at the results and the feedback and just kind of thinking about, some of the folks too, of like, it's, the Wild West, kind of going back to the B&B property when we bought that way back. That was kind of the Wild West. And now we have, managed it in a professional manner. And that's moving forward. That's how I see this Copper Canyon parcel as managed in a professional manner compared to the Wild West that it is now. So, yeah. And then any other comments or questions on that Copper Canyon map?
No, not covered.
Yep. One last thing, and I did look up on our overlay from our master plan. It is in a low habitat sensitive area as well.
Yeah.
Not to say there isn't wildlife and habitat in that area, But, you know, I almost moving forward, if a formalized trail was established, it almost feels like condense the activity into a formalized area compared to having large social trails going everywhere. So.
I do have one question. What do you have a no?
No, it was-
Okay, one other Copper Canyon question. It sounds like the proposal to BOSAC in August would be a single trail, and I'm wondering if there's a alternate, like a two-way trail. Words are hard today. A two-way trail as well, just given that it is so steep, and I know that it would be a connection for mountain bikers, and I'm trying to foresee future Aspen Alley issues. And I'm just wondering if that's on the table as well.
I do think there is a potential for a directional trail in that area.
Oh, word.
This potential alignment will be multi-use, multi-directional, but with like an uphill climbing mind
Okay,
philosophy with that.
okay.
Just an observation, when going through those responses, I think, just the percentages of in favor or non-favorable are a little misleading, because when you go through and click through it all, you have the people that are not in favor of it, and then the people are like, I'm in favor of it, but I'm worried about X, Y, and Z. And so I just say I would encourage everyone to kind of go through those results, because the favorable, unfavorable really was a little misleading, because even the majority of the people that were in favor had some grave concerns in the comments. And I just thought that was pretty interesting.
A good point. Step on Copper Canyon.
So we had potentially thought of the Lorium as a site visit, but we're kind of thinking maybe in August, that would be our site visit where we could go out there and do a site visit and look at the area.
I think that's a great
Um,
idea.
August, we'd bring it to you guys, and if you felt comfortable moving forward with the trail, we would put it in alignment and possibly have a contractor to put that trail in the late fall. Or we could table it and do some more thinking if this does make sense, if it doesn't make sense, and you know, do some more research for it. I think those are the two steps.
Okay.
Did you have another thought, Nikki, of where this would go? Or?
No, I just was curious.
Can I change the topic? The bioacoustic
Yeah.
study. I know we talked about it before. I just couldn't remember what the intended goal was, other than to collect data and kind of more Cucumber Gulch monitoring, if you can refresh a little bit.
Yeah. Alex? Yeah.
Essentially, the purpose is just a secondary database. We do physical on-the-ground avian monitoring, or our consultant does. And so these recording devices are just placed in the preserve, essentially to have two different databases and help us confirm species. It's done by the Cornell School, which has that really cool app, if you've ever used the Merlin app. And it's essentially helping to build that database for users. So records 15 minutes every 4 hours in the preserve. And then it uses an AI program to determine the species. So it's essentially just a secondary study. It was paid for by the Hagen Family Foundation. Different Hagens, based in Atlanta, Georgia. But so they're paying for it, and we just view it as a secondary resource to determine the populations and species in the preserve.
Got it. Okay.
And I had a comment on a different thing. I did a wildflower walk with Ella this past week, and it was excellent. She did such a good job. We had a diverse group of people in terms of ability levels, and it was a real fun experience, and she really knows her stuff.
She does. She said you knew your stuff too. She felt like she was co-leading with you.
Oops.
She really enjoyed it though.
Are we not shocked?
No, and I do have to give some props to our naturalists. They have been doing such a great job. Not only the tours, but working with Breck Tourism Office. They were on the Channel 7 News, the Denver Post. They set up a station at the Troll last Friday and contacted 250 people in an hour and a half, just on wildlife interactions. So they've been doing a great job. It's been nice having them.
Anything else on staff summary? Okay, before we move on to our discussion, I know Mike and Ella are here for public comment and we were a bit ahead. So if you two, is that why you're here, Mike? Okay, if you want to step up to the microphone so we have it on the recording, that'd be great. If you want to share your comment, that'd be great. Ella, I hope you chime in there.
Yeah, hello, is it on?
It should be.
Okay.
Just have to talk right into it. Oh, Jeff turned it off.
No? Yeah. Good?
Yeah.
Okay. My name's, Michael Hagan. I was at the open house at Breckenridge Center back in May, and there was discussion, I've seen it in the newspapers about, what to do with McCain open space. And I know, I understand, hopefully correctly, that it is to have, have some recreational opportunities there in a more natural setting, not too much, artificial construction and structures and whatnot. In light of the school bond issue failing last fall, and the fact that we don't in Summit County have a rubberized training track. So I'm speaking on behalf of the high school teams, but also, the community. I thought there was possibly the potential for a natural, gravel, soft surface track in the McCain property that could be built in and hopefully meet the, the desired goals of recreational. It's not high impact, more natural. And it would be a benefit to the high school team and to, I feel maybe to the entire community as a softer surface training opportunity for our youth runners, and then, other community members as well, as opposed to asphalt. And it's not just the surface so much as the school puts, priority on clearing the infield, the turf field at our track. So the snow, every time there's a snowstorm, they push the snow, but they don't push it all the way off. So there's snow 6 feet high in lane 3 of the track. So in the spring, it maybe melts off by April. I think this year in April, track starts in February. By April, we actually could run around the track, and not being in 3 feet of piled up snow. But as it melts in the, during the day, and then track practice starts around 3:30, and the sun goes behind the mountain about 4 o'clock, and all that melting water from the snowbanks freezes, and now we're running on an ice rink. So a gravel surface in the spring as well, but because you don't have these big snowbanks from clearing the turf field in the middle, I think could be a safer and more productive training facility for the high school. And like I say, I hopefully it could be used by the community. People just want to go for an easy, flat walk, not be on the bike path, which does get a little bit busy at times. People just want to have a casual walk. Hopefully it could be something that the whole community would benefit from.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Young Ella Hagan, the pride of Breckenridge.
High school athletic performance on this side of things, and well, I guess I'll start with doing some Strava research of my own. I have run 1,084 laps on the high school track. Probably more. That's how many my watch recorded. It's an asphalt track. It's hard to train on. It's hard to stay motivated on. But we have some amazing athletes out there that are doing their thing every day. And, the team has been getting better every year, and that'll continue for a long time. And they benefit from anything, because running laps around an asphalt track is painful and also just, doesn't help for a lot of various injury prevention things. I also do know the community comes together for a lot of these kinds of things. I see a lot of people out on the trails very often. And I think a lot of people beyond just the high school athletics could benefit from it, just a place where, kind of a different side of athletics than it's usually up here to be seen. Obviously, we have incredible trail systems, but, there's a lot of different sides to running in general, and kind of a track-ish-esque facility could really bring more of that in. And yeah, I don't know. It's something that we've been working for a while, just to try and bring a better facility or just somewhere where we could really bring the training to the kids instead of making the kids kind of figure out how to make the best with what they have. And I do know up here, especially, every sport makes the best with what they have. And they're all very kind of resilient and resourceful. And, you know, I've seen the sprinters wheel out 100-yard rubber sheet so that they could get a few sprints on. I've seen the jumpers pull up a mat into the indoor field so they can do jumps. But as the distance runners, especially, we need to do laps. And we can't do them in spikes. I have scars from the track. It's kind of scary. By soccer balls. But a lot of people can benefit from it, not just the high school team. And yeah, I don't know.
Question for you guys. Thanks for coming out, both you guys. Is there a preferred distance, like for a natural surface facility like that? If it was circuitous and kind of was a loop, would there be a desired length?
Training would be 400 meters, you know, and that's the size of a, you know, Olympic track or a standard track. And that's just because so many workouts, you know, in my head, stuff I plan, would be, it would be ideal.
If it was more of like a winding trail through the
Yeah.
open space, like more of a cross-country distance, or?
It doesn't need to be a perfectly oval shape. You know, it could be made, you know, slightly oblong, you know, following the contours of the river and whatnot a little bit. But ideally it would be 400. I mean, 300 would be great, 500 would be fine, whatever. Yeah. And I did a very perfunctory research, and it sounds like, you know, for under maybe $50,000, under $10,000 in materials, and then, you know, depending on how much leveling may have to be done or anything. But it sounds like, but by my very perfunctory research, about $50,000 less could be built.
And I know we did send your message over to our consultants to be part of their research and their community feedback. So you're definitely being heard, and we truly appreciate the interest.
Thank you.
I actually have one more question. Because I was always just picturing this as a track, and now after hearing you talk about it, what's the width look like? Is this like a single track, or is it like a track like width?
Yeah, ideally for the high school training purposes, it doesn't need to be super wide. It doesn't need to be 8 lanes wide. It could be from here to that wall wide. More like the gap, even less than the gap between, you know, width here, or, you know, about 3 meters would be perfectly
Okay.
fine.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I hear you on being I went to Summit High School too and played outdoor soccer, but trained in the gym, indoor soccer all year. We weren't very good. So I hear you working with what you have. It's tough to be an athlete up here. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Mike and Ella. And thanks for your letter too.
Okay.
Yeah, we hear you, so we appreciate it. Yeah. Bye. All right, so we'll go to our discussion. So we'll do our wildlife camera monitoring report.
Tony, you got that pulled up somewhere? There's not a ton that I specifically want to reference, but I think the imagery and graphs are nice to look at. So essentially, this wildlife report is,
Hold up.
oh, go scroll down.
Scroll down.
There it is. It's essentially focused on the Golden Horseshoe. We don't have a ton of baseline data for, you know, migration corridors, just wildlife in general, species abundance. I have to give a huge shout out to Allison Morton from the county. She has already presented to OSAC on this report, and she essentially built the report, and we just added our cameras and data. So huge shout out to her. And also on that note, the naturalist as well helped us crunch a ton of photos. There's quite a bit of images triggered that aren't wildlife as well. So it's a big task to go through it all. But again, yeah, the focus is really on the Golden Horseshoe area. We do talk a little bit about the 4 mile, which is just outside, but we included it as is kind of an entryway to the Golden Horseshoe. And if you were on site for the field visit, we talked a little bit about that elk migration corridor and the CPW side of things. So, yeah, to get into some of the specifics and to expand on Dry Gulch, which we were just talking about, if you remember a year or two ago, I think it was 2 years ago, we made that acquisition. And then in the months following, we kind of talked about it'd be really cool to build a trail in there and potentially connect the Dry Gulch Trail to ZL, I think was the proposed connection. So you'll see summaries and the data and the graph, but there's actually a second page management decisions. So I think that's more the most interesting part of this study is how did the data actually impact our decision making. And for Dry Gulch, it essentially eliminated that trail as you once we confirmed elk on site exactly in line of where the proposed trail was going to go. So that's pretty cool. We're not seeing massive amounts up there, but enough to make us reconsider something like that. And it is in line with the CPW migration corridor. And yeah, you'll see another one of the management decisions is actually to monitor more closely and see if it's a calving or fawning ground. It's one thing to see them there briefly. I think that we had 6 or 7 in one frame, but it wasn't a repeating thing, right? We didn't see them again in the following days or following weeks. So they could have just moved on or been part of their migration corridor. We'd like to monitor more closely and see if they're actually staying up there. That was a big takeaway from Dry Gulch. We can bump on down to 4 Mile. I think 4 Mile is pretty interesting because we've been talking about wildlife crossings in the past couple of months with Summit County Safe Passages and the proposed East Vale crossing. But if you look at their overall plan, they've actually established a number of spots throughout the county that they would think would make a good place for a wildlife crossing or underpass. And part of that is the 4 Mile bridge area. They definitely noticed that there should be a wildlife crossing there. And I think at one point CPW said that the underpass at 4 Mile Bridge is a sufficient wildlife crossing. So we put a camera there to see if any actual ungulates or bigger animals were using it. We had it up for just under a year and never saw anything other than really a fox using that and humans. So we ultimately just, decided that ungulates probably aren't using that and they're crossing the road. If we're seeing them on Dry Gulch and we're seeing them on McCain isn't included in this one, but we've seen elk on both sides of the road there, not using the underpass. So they are crossing the road in that width between Coin Valley and 4 Mile. So we actually moved the camera to face west now and to kind of get hopefully a better collection of species. And we're already seeing a lot more variety that are just using the open space as opposed to the actual underpass. So that one's been moved. And really the main takeaway there, Tony, if you go to the next page, is since we haven't seen any ungulates using the crossing, we want to determine that actual crossing point. So we're going to work to see if we can find some public lands along Highway 9 that we can actually capture them crossing the road at some point.
So CPW said that it was a viable underpass.
I believe.
I mean, have you guys walked underneath there?
Yeah,
I can't imagine a moose or an elk walking underneath that.
Yeah, but they thought it could be, and we were skeptical at the time, and it was cost associated with the highway reconstruction there and everything when they put that in. And I think this has proven that it's just not being used by the ungulates.
You can see in the imagery like how short it is right there on the actual land. I suppose one could cross in the river, but yeah, never had any evidence of that.
Cool.
So moving on, Lincoln Meadows. I think this one's pretty cool with the recent acquisition. You'll see quite a few moose were up there. Allison spearheaded this one, but I just think it's really cool. We've just made this acquisition and it's just a nice confirmation of we're protecting a pretty valuable wetland space up there, a lot of moose, bird species, pretty cool stuff. But Allison's takeaway from that was staff should consider monitoring this property year round to see how the motorized use that happens up there impacts wildlife. So we kind of I think back and forth conversationally, we're like, oh, we might see more numbers if people weren't ripping by there, but can't make that assumption. Parkville, again, pretty cool. I think this was the most, maybe not the most variety, but the most detections, and you'll see a ton of mule deer at this location. This one was tampered with, and so was our 4 mile. So most of the takeaways from this one are more on the management of cameras as opposed to a wildlife impact. But we definitely got some good takeaways from how to secure our cameras properly, how to label them, that it's for wildlife studies and not a visitor use thing. I do partly think that the 4 mile bridge camera was tampered with because it's a really popular fishing area. I wonder if someone saw that and thought, is the land management decision framework going to be changed here? I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. But yeah, Ranch at Breck, again, this one had a bit of some trail planning implications because we are talking about building some trails up in here. So again, cool to see a variety of species, but I don't think, it pushed us to the point where we'd completely rule out any trails in this area. But you'll see that Allison said it'll be important to continue monitoring this area, especially in summer and fall. So we continue building that baseline data when we do make a decision on trails in this area. And finally, Rock Island Road, which I think was kind of the all-star, the star of the show of the study, because you can see just a huge variety of species observed there. Mountain lions, some of our more interesting species, pine martens, really cool area, and kind of the biggest set of data as well. We talked a little bit about the Galena Ditch Trail, and if installing a non-motorized use sign at the intersection could deter use and continue to see really good numbers there. But that is essentially it. Like I said, pretty basic study. We didn't have any baseline data in the horseshoe. So it's really just these first couple of years of seeing what sort of species abundance are in these popular areas and how that will impact our trail planning efforts going forward.
Do you have any plans to expand into other areas of the trail system with cameras?
Yeah, we do. We're doing kind of a town of Breck specific trail user study, which I'd like to kind of mirror from the wildlife side, because it might be interesting to see what types of, if we're collecting data on mountain bikers versus motorized versus hikers, it might be cool to just mirror that with a wildlife study and see if there's any correlating data between the user types and what sort of wildlife we're seeing out there. But no, at the moment, it will be continuing to monitor these spots. And of course, we've got the whole wildlife program in the preserve as well, which is a completely different animal, and no pun intended. But yeah, so this one's mostly focused on golden horseshoe and just building up that initial database of what's
You're
out
going to
there.
keep doing it.
Absolutely, yep.
Good, thanks.
Yep.
Alex, when you're talking about building a database, I'm curious how this data interfaces with CPW's data. Like I believe in our master plan, that data set was from CPW when Bill Mangle drafted the habitat sensitivity map.
Sure.
So do you share data? Is there any?
We haven't at this point. I think that would be a really interesting process. Their species overlay and stuff isn't incredibly specific in terms of dialing in. Like our cameras are, we're looking at specific spots in the golden horseshoe. A lot of their species overlay is a bit more general, like county patterns and stuff. I wonder if they'd be interested in seeing that. And I wonder if they could confirm, like a lot of this for us was for the McCain planning process, there's the elk migration thing. Do we see them on both sides at Dry Gulch? I wonder if there's, you bring up a good point, can we confirm that with them? And does this data, is it species that we saw and number that we saw at Dry Gulch enough from their calculations to confirm that that's actually a migration corridor? But we haven't, to answer your question, we haven't been sharing it with them, but it brings up that maybe we should. And I'm sure that they would find uses in it and maybe it can confirm or deny some of our hunches or, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's my curiosity is if our master plan's intended to be dynamic and ever changing, if we should take the time to see how your data reconciles with theirs, just to make sure our maps as updated as possible, reflecting what I assume to be, like you're saying, your data being more accurate because you're doing such more specific type of work.
Site-specific.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a great point. I'll circle back with Allison and see if maybe we can, the county and the town should do that, because I think that's a good idea.
of course, that's,
DPW would share their raw data, you think?
well, their data is what is in our master plan. So, but I assume, I mean, that's all easier said than done, I imagine, but I'd be interested to see how they work together.
I think that's great. I mean, it's one thing to collect this data for our purposes in trail building, but yeah, I'm sure they would find good use for it.
When we expand to new areas, are you gonna be using the cameras that we have? Or are you gonna be buying more cameras? Cause it would be nice to see year over year.
I think
The
we
same
would expand the program by buying more cameras. We've been kind of doing that in the past few years, using new cameras with cellular service and stuff. So yeah, if it's on the report, we continue to monitor and just buy additional cameras for new locations.
Does, I don't think it changes our outlook at all, but any thought to catch some wolves on the cameras?
I thought about that, waiting, that would be critical
amazing.
capture to have, but haven't put a ton of thought into like actually, yeah, the implications of seeing one and how that way.
You might feel pretty obligated to share that information.
I would want to share that one, yeah. But Kristen, actually, your point reminds me of the
think I saw
Cucumber Gulch cameras have been in their locations for 20 years. So
Yeah,
it's just like the longer, bigger database you can
Yeah.
build, the better. So
Cool. Yeah, there's some great shots.
yeah, some really great
Yeah.
shots.
It was awesome.
And after dark, what we've decided is there's mountain lions.
Oh, right. How do you analyze it, Alex? Like, how do you go through and capture the animals when you have all this footage?
well, it's a motion detection camera and it takes 6 shots based on, we can do settings on sensitivity and how many photos you want. But as far as actually processing the data, you go collect the SD card that could have, 2,000 to 15,000 photos, and then you manually process it by clicking through. And there's a lot of wind shots and empty shots.
It's flowing.
Yeah, and it helps to have a team of people to do it all together. Yeah. But we're working on actually, your husband is potentially helping us come up with some AI recognition that can help us just eliminate any photos that are blank. So will save us a ton of, hopefully save us a lot of time of just giving us photos that have a capture, whether that's person, wildlife, branch, would still save a ton of time. So
Rad.ai.
Kristen's scared to be photographed.
I was just wondering how many hikers going pee have you caught? Is it me?
Any other questions on this one? Thanks, Alex. This is great.
Really cool.
It's fun to see.
Cool. Some amazing pictures.
No, that
huge shout out to Allison from the county and
Gosh.
the naturalists. They were a huge help in both of this.
The
Both of
deer
them were huge
sniffing the camera was really.
okay. All right. So we'll do BOEC parking.
So we just wanted to bring this back after our site visit from last month. We did set up a camera for it was about 3 months. 3 weeks we had it up there, and you could, see between the hours of 9 and 4 were the prime time area where they were at their max capacity majority of the time, and even extending into that area that we had looked to expand it. We talked to the BOEC staff as well and kind of their ongoing challenges with the parking and people parking on the road or parking and staff parking and how they kind of had to deal with that and had enforcement officers up there and sometimes, giving folks tickets up there as well. We also did a little research. The spots do need to be ADA required. Working with our town staff, any town public parking area that has more than 6 spaces needs to have an ADA spot. So, which is manageable through the new construction or new, if we do want to expand, that is all manageable to do, compared to mobility impaired as well. Also, I did a little research and for every 25 spaces, you need to have one ADA spot. So, we had mentioned possibly, if we wanted to move forward with the expansion, possibly putting 2 ADA spots in there. But, after talking to the staff and seeing the camera and the amount of use, I think another option could be 1 ADA spot and 3 general spaces as well. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit more information from that site visit, give you guys some time to think about it and just see if you had any more questions or feedback about the trailhead.
When you were looking at the camera information, did you see people that clearly, like people in wheelchairs, for instance, that would clearly need an ADA compliant one versus were most of them people who seem to be okay to walk on a regular parking spot?
Yeah, good question. We didn't see anybody in a full wheelchair. There were some strollers, like little walking devices, but not a full wheelchair. That's a good question too, because this is a public parking area. I think you guys are comfortable with that. I think a lot of folks, when I've mentioned the BOC parking area, they're like, oh, they do work with folks like that. But this is, strictly for public parking to access the trails in the reservoir. Yeah.
So there's already some ADA accessible spots that BOAC provides.
That's correct.
Right, Tony?
Yeah.
It's a good point just to clarify that we're talking about for the public in general.
Are those spots not where we were looking at for the public? That's on their property or somewhere else?
Yeah, they're behind that green gate, closer to the facility building.
And to add an ADA spot here did you talk about reconfiguring at all to move that ADA spot maybe closer, further uphill?
That it's all on the table, Matt, to have that spot closer. It's just a matter of money.
Yeah.
Because we would have to regrade that spot that's closer to it. But it is doable. Since we're regrading those spots further away, we could actually, grade those to ADA
I
requirements.
mean, I guess, I don't know, it's not up to me, but I would guess, I would ask the question, how much money? It seems like given the opportunity to do a good job
do
with
it.
it while the people and the machines are up there might be worth giving a serious thought to.
Yeah, I can get you guys some, maybe a little bit more numbers, but to put a price tag, I did get a quote from Columbine today for those 4 spots. It came in at 93,000 for that. And so
To grade and pave and.
grade, pave, stripe, and revegetation. It's the one-stop shop.
And does that include 1 ADA spot?
That would be, it would either be, it was like a distance of, 25 by 50 feet. So we could get 2 ADA spots and 2 general spaces, or 1 ADA spot and 3 general
For
spaces
the same price?
for the same price. And, maybe for a few dollars more, we look at regrading that spot closer, and, we'd be in the $100,000 range. And you're right. Like if we're up there, do it, maybe we just do it right and spend a little more money.
It seems like, I don't know if they had to tear out all of that asphalt though, that could double the cost pretty quickly, I
I
think.
think it would be like a patch job.
Okay. So maybe not quite.
Maybe not quite.
I do wonder being up there and not really thinking about BOEC having their own ADA parking, it definitely seemed like we wanted an ADA spot closer to the BOEC, but having it on the other end does make it closer to this, like the trailhead. Like there's 2 different trailheads, so it's like, which one are you trying to provide better access to? I don't know if one deserves more attention than the other. I don't know. Because I think that, anyway, I won't repeat it. So. if it's not expensive, interested in hearing that, but otherwise I'm not uncomfortable having it be where you've mapped it out because that is where one of the trailheads is.
Mhm. And, you know, I think personally, I feel like that ADA spot would be more fitted closer to this area to access the Sawmill Reservoir.
Mhm.
The 4 o'clock, this trail is a little steeper with some grades, has a little more cross slope, and then you're on that 4 o'clock run.
Yeah. What's the zip line?
So they are doing, they have a zip line course right in this area right now. And they are redesigning it to improve it.
Oh.
And so kind of where that purple line is, where the boundary will be for their new zip line. And so they're kind of waiting on us to configure this parking area so then they can design that zip line.
Any other questions on? Do we want to go around and I suppose determine if we recommend this?
Boy, do we.
Oh, Chris, is that a vote for you?
Let's do it.
Oh, you want to?
Yeah.
You want to start?
Let's do it. We
Okay.
love talking about things like that. No, I think this is a great opportunity and going up there was a great reminder of the resource that's available up there. It kind of falls out of mind, but loved it, loved the visit. I'd like to see kind of the red line option as they go forward, but I'd love to get the quote of the red line plus an ADA. I think that's definitely, especially for this space. I mean, not that we need, we're not in it for the optics. It's actually for a good solution, but I think this is a great place to vet what we're trying to do with mobility impaired and ADA. So
Yeah.
I'd
And
throw
you,
more at it.
and you would like to see that extra, what the quote would be for to have an ADA spot close to the trail? Is that what you're
Yeah, I
asking?
think so. Based on what we saw, I think the ADA over on, the Looker's left here,
Mhm.
and then the mobility impaired off to the right. And I think that's a pretty good balance.
So you would recommend one ADA spot and a mobility impaired spot?
Yeah.
For a total of 2 spots.
No, I'm talking 4 spots.
4 spots.
One
Changing
ADA,
one of
3
the
general.
current general use spots over to the ADA. Right.
And then all of the red would also be ADA?
No,
Oh, okay.
but because what it says here is in the red it says 2 mobility impaired and 2 general spaces.
Oh, I see.
So we're adding 4, 2 of them being mobility impaired, and then we're giving up a general use for an ADA. Right? That's what you're talking about, is that we could go back to them and see if there's an ADA option.
Oh,
I think the red line is 2 mobility impaired
Right,
spaces,
not ADA.
not ADA, but they are a large, wider,
Right.
right? And the yellow line is 2 general. Is that correct?
I thought there was 2 and 2.
Wow. I am spinning a little bit, but I think I can reel it in here. So the yellow was just, because we had talked about when we did this all persons trail, like it would be great to have some parking for these folks to actually use it. So we're going to kind of move forward and we'll do this expansion of at least, 2 mobility impaired, 2 ADA spots. So that's the yellow. And then after further thinking and talking to the staff and seeing the amount of use, does it actually make sense to expand this to provide more public access? So the red is looking at expanding it 2 more spaces with the addition of 2 ADA spots,
And 2 general spots.
2 general spots,
Or
2
total.
ADA spots, 4 total.
Okay.
I'm wondering if we make them ADA, does that limit people who have mobility impairments but don't have ADA compliant placards? Because that actually might hinder access because there is no ADA compliant trail or access to anything ADA compliant around that parking lot. So I do wonder if we make them actually ADA spots, they're going to go unused, and people who have a mobility impairment who would like to go use that trail won't even be able to park in that ADA spot. And then it'll be a useless spot.
Yeah.
But
That's a
don't we
really
have
good
to
point.
have one ADA spot by our town rules?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just saying we don't need to have 2.
Right, okay.
I agree with you.
Yeah. There's really no access to anything ADA compliant
Yeah.
up there.
Right. It's a good point. How do you now, do you want to amend?
No.
Whatever gets us the most park spots, because like I said, we were up on a Monday and it was packed.
Mm-hmm.
So that obviously we need more general spaces. Let's definitely lean into the mobility impaired spaces. And so whatever matrix that works out to be, and especially under 100K, I'm in favor.
Okay.
What about you, Bobby?
And I like the idea, I mean, we have to have an ADA one and then we would want to have a mobility impaired one. But I'd also like to have two general.
Okay.
Was what I would think would serve the most.
Jay?
I think I'd be in my own camp here of, one ADA as you spoke on Looker's left, and then 3 general spots to maximize the number of general spots. And reasoning being is, I think when we're signing ADA and we're signing mobility impaired, I think there's a risk of confusion on signage where allowing for to comply with town code, but also providing as many spaces as we can that will be used on a regular basis, I think provides the most benefit for the trailhead.
To use a mobility impaired spot, do you need a tag or, I mean, you could just be old and be mobile.
Yeah, I mean, you could have just had your hip replaced. There's no really, certificate or, permit that you would get for that.
Do you even sign it, Tony?
So we have signed the Riling dredge as mobility
Okay.
impaired. And this is something that we possibly do, this is ADA. And it would have a loading zone, a striped out loading zone. And then the next space next to it could be mobility impaired. That would also could share a loading zone too, but it's not like we're questioning folks on that.
Do we know if the Riling dredge ones are used just by people who are mobility impaired, or do people come and see that the little place across the street's full and they park there anyway?
We haven't been monitoring that closely other than the casual ride by, and I haven't seen a lot of cars using it.
I haven't either. And anecdotally, I think people just park on the road if the lot is full, which it often is on crowded days.
Mhm.
But I think they're short stops. It's not like people are parking there all day.
Take a trip down to the dredge.
They walk up to the dredge, the kids run around. And yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, but it's not horrible.
Yeah, so we haven't seen a lot of traffic. Coatrex did just come out. We were going to highlight that at our next meeting, but they've taken information and photos from our all persons trails and created a list and a special kind of page to help get the word out for them. But it's that fine line of like how, trying to provide access, but at the same time, not take away a space from somebody who could use it and having it just sit there empty.
Is there room for 4 general spaces in the red?
Yeah,
Okay, so,
this could be 4 general spaces and then we could move this ADA.
or maybe it takes those 2, but at least it displaces those 2 and creates at least 2 more. That would be my
Create this ADA
yes.
and then these would be 4 general.
Yes.
I think that's kind of what you're saying too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that Jay's made a really good point, and so has Matt. I like that approach. That gives the most people the ability to park conveniently and use the trails.
Because the trail is not ADA and if
Right.
some folks have just some, displacement, they should be able to, use the trail. Yeah.
Park in a general parking spot.
What are you thinking, Kristen?
Yeah, I think I agree with that as well. I think no matter what, the red line is what I would vote for, and whether we make one of those spots ADA or grade out the other one. I guess it depends on the price, and I'm fine having them all be general parking, because I do think that we don't want to be like, this is all anecdotal, but people are not really using our mobility impaired parking spots. And so, and there's a huge demand at this parking lot. But if we end up making one mobility impaired, we can always make that decision later. I think the decision to be made today for sure is just that we want the red line done. And I support that.
Good point.
Or general ADA.
Great. Easy. And then we are planning, the sustainability team is going to, I think, have the white e-bikes right in this hash mark as well for potential option for visitors or staff as well. It's another plan.
No, I didn't vote, but I'm the same. No, that's okay. I'm with the minority or the majority here. Majority.
Some camping was
Jay, yeah, trendsetter. Tony, the rule of six spots allocates an ADA or mandates an ADA. Is that, I know the town hired consultants. Is that from their recommendation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Did you get enough? Was that clear as mud for you guys?
Yeah,
Are we
no,
good?
that's great. We're
Okay.
gonna put an ADA spot here and we're gonna get 4 spots right here and then possibly reconvene. If it's getting used a lot, maybe we make one of these mobility
Yeah.
impaired.
Yep, perfect. And do you keep the camera up just to see how it goes?
We could.
I think we should, and then we can have the mobility impaired sign ready to go if we feel like it's an issue.
Add it to the wildlife report just for fun.
So many cameras. So little
Jeff,
time.
yeah, again.
Big brother goes away.
Yeah, exactly.
Whole town's under surveillance.
PC do any monitoring of the parking lot to see who is using it at all? I mean, do they have any idea whether many truly handicapped people are parking there and going to their property, to their area or not?
What's that, Bobby? I'm sorry.
Well, does BOEC have
Mhm.
any data about that parking lot use?
They don't.
Okay.
They don't.
All right, well, I hope we're all getting psyched because we're going to talk about Aspen Alley now. So, especially Tony.
So it recently came to our knowledge, working with the Forest Service and working through our SUA agreement, that we do have the potential to put restrictions on the Aspen Alley Trail. So that was kind of something that we were looked into as a management, as like, do we even have the option? And so recently we figured out we do have this option. It's not a super easy process, but it's doable within the next few months that we could do some restrictions working with the Forest Service. And the history of the Aspen Alley Trail, is everybody's pretty familiar with the Aspen Alley Trail, and maybe you've had your own experience on the trail yourselves to actually know the trail and its users, and it's a popular trail. And we're talking just about these 3 weeks in the fall, but in general, it's a very popular trail with some high speed user groups on it, and some of the user groups might feel entitled on it as well, where we don't have that proper etiquette being followed. So it's one of those kind of waiting for something bad to happen. And so as staff, we figured we'd try to move forward with something and propose it. We've reached out to the public and put it out for surveys about restrictions use. And we were kind of surprised at seeing some of the public in favor of restricted use. With that being said, it's one thing to say it and then to actually enact it and see it in use and how people actually would be in support of it. We recently had a meeting with the county and kind of talked about this and what we thought were some of the best options. I think everybody kind of came away from the table like not really ecstatic at all the options that we came up with, and realized, we're not, or everybody will probably be upset in some way or another, whatever user group is what is put in place, right? On that note, we did hire SE consultants. We're working with them on a proposed trail that would parallel Aspen Alley. It would provide, our plan would be to provide an alternate route for bikes climbing uphill and for hiking and multi-directional. We've submitted that alignment to SE. They're going to submit it to the Forest Service and work on conducting all the studies necessary for a NEPA analysis this summer. So hopefully by this fall, the Forest Service will have a complete package study for them to review. We've talked with the Forest Service. They're short-staffed. Even though they have this complete package, they are unsure of when they would have somebody be able to review it. And they've said that to us for, for some time, but we felt we still needed to move forward. So we kind of are pushing the envelope a little bit with them, but understanding we do have a good relationship with them as well. So I think big picture plan, yes, we would like to create an alternate route to help solve this problem. Alternate routes, directional trails are not the solution everywhere. It's a tool I think we can use to help mitigate some of these conflicts. And when we can use it and it best serves the public, I think it is a good tool. I just don't think we need to do it on every trail, but it is a good option. So part of this and trying to come up with some options, one is increased education. Let's get some people, boots on the ground. Let's get some signage out there. We'll have somebody at the top of the trail with a clicker and says, okay, just like at the amusement park, you can go. Okay.
I didn't.
I'm just joking on that. But we could work with our partners, Friends of Dillon Ranger District. They've got a strong patrol ranger group as well out there, and really just continue to work on education. And whatever decision I think is made tonight to option one is also something we're going to work for too. We've also worked with Breck Tourism to try to help direct people to Little Mountain, Hiker's Gold. There's other great options out there as well. Option two would be the even odd option, right? We break it out, simplify it. Odd days is hiking, even days is mountain biking. Really just keeping it simple and easy for everyone to follow. And then option three could be hiking only, or possibly if you do want to ride, you could ride early in the morning or early in the evening. I think the options are tough. Enforcement and management is tough. The Forest Service does not have the manpower to enforce this, but we do have the ability to if we wanted to, since the trail does come and the Sawmill Trailhead is on town property. We do have the ability to enforce this if we wanted to. I don't know if that would be something that we would want to the first year of an enactment of it, and maybe it was to be more education, and maybe it worked well. Maybe the next year, then enforcement could be a possibility, but it is an option that we do have with the police department, and it would entitle or we'd have to put an ordinance in place and work with the police department, but that is an option with that enforcement, because I think anytime you are putting some new rules in place, management and enforcement and education are big parts of that.
So one clarification or just
Yeah.
with Tony's suggestions here and the options is we're just talking about, like you said, a 3-week period, and it's out this fall trying it out. If we were to choose one of these, I think option one is kind of a no-brainer. But if we wanted to go with option 2 or 3, it would be a tryout for this fall. And then we could decide next year, if we don't have the NEPA done and everything, and we're still in the same situation, we could consider it again for next fall. We could change our strategy if we wanted to. But this is really just, we're talking about a 3-week period this fall.
Mhm. Thanks, Mark.
Tony, and Nikki, would you be okay if I presented an option 4 just for discussion perhaps? And knowing that, seeing the downsides of the options kind of presented perhaps an option 4 that would be perhaps make everyone a little unhappy in the art of compromise, but using our buck and rail to in about 4 or 5 different straightaways where there was good line of sight, of creating a speed control for downhill bikers where there is a buck and rail that you had to come to a more or less a slowdown or a stop to kind of maneuver around and to break up some of those long straightaways where speed is really accelerated on. And I think, you know, by just riding it a couple times and trying to, you know, mentally click on different aspects, I would imagine, and Tony would have and Alex would have a much better thought process on this, but perhaps 4 or 5 installations of buck and rail that prohibited people from going around it because of, you know, other trees, but really did provide a slowdown for downhill bikers with signage saying, hey, this is a 3-week, you know, change in tempo. It is to allow all users to use the trail and not try to put forth something that would be temporary on odd and even days, trying to communicate that to day trippers, to people that don't live here, and do that on a small period of time. I think one of the reasons why Apex and Centennial Cone work really well is that you have more of a local group using that are used to the rules and the odds and the evens, and it's consistent, right? It's 365, where I think one of the things that might be setting us up for failure is by having an inconsistent plus a transient user group, plus not a really great way. If you end up at the top of the trail on the wrong day, there aren't really good escape routes to go across. So just curious if that would have any traction with any of you, or if that would be part of that process.
Would your phone number be on those signs?
Call Jay.
Yeah.
How the buck and rail does what you're talking about, like lay it, draw a picture for me.
Tony, you might be better at like describing this. You're better with your words today than any of us, but yeah.
You know, we've implemented similar to at the Riling Dredge, where the upper trail comes into the all persons trail, where it's 3 different kind of fencings are offset. So it creates like a weaving motion, and you start the one, you know, and the second one's a little further gapped, and then the third one's a little tighter. So it creates this gradual kind of slow down where it's not just like a massive pinch. So
Does it narrow the space?
yeah, eventually it will, right? If you, depending on how many you set up.
So the bikers and hikers are going to be in a narrower
Yeah,
space?
it would be, you know, a distance maybe from us to the end of the room.
But I mean, the width of the area that the bikers and hikers are trying to share.
No, Bobby.
They're just going through it.
Yeah, it more makes it so that like the trail does like a short S so that the bikers have to slow down. So it's not like
Instead of
everyone's gonna be walking next to each other. It's just gonna be like a short, like space of a short section of the trail that where bikers tend to get a lot of speed, and we'll purposely slow them down in those areas by putting up half barriers on either side of the trail. So they'll have to like kind of snake through it, causing them to slow down.
But everybody would have to snake.
Sure,
through
but
it,
there's not
right?
gonna be
Is
that, yeah.
Yeah. But like at the bottom of side door, at the at the beginning of Fall Classic where it heads to Hard Luck, we have those. And so we have many examples of them, and they're natural looking and using natural materials.
Like where we want people to slow down near intersections.
And shared the fact that there's 2 different kinds of users sharing it has worked in these other examples.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Hardly notice them. It's really much more for bikers to slow down.
Thanks.
Yeah.
My thought on this one, and this was actually a point Chris Kulik made in conversation, is I think of the 3-week period actually when it's less about safety because it's so saturated with use, and it's more about user experience. So I know if we've all biked on a high tide day, you really don't even try to go quickly because it's so populated with hikers. So in my estimation, that might be a good solution otherwise, but I don't think, please correct me if people disagree, but I think of this more as managing the user experience and less about safety because it's so busy.
I would respectfully disagree because the whole reason this is being put up in front of us is in the name of safety. That we are concerned that we're going to have a user group conflict that's going to result in serious injury or death. And I think that's where I saw the memo going, is how do we try to manage not having one of those?
So I think Jay, Nikki, I came up because Nikki quoted something I suggested, but from my own, again, this is my own experience of generally hiking that area with my family since the point they could walk to the present as well as biking it. But generally, like a lot of things, when it becomes congested, it's physically impossible to get going that fast. Where actually the actual danger when you have congestion and slowdown actually decreases versus a period where you might just have a random, let's say, trail runner at 6 a.m. and a mountain biker also at 6 a.m. that thinks they're the only one on the trail. That's where you actually have the most risk for a serious injury. But actually, when you're encountering so much friction going through there, that's actually where you're least likely to have an actual incident for safety. You may have, to Nikki's point, more conflicts because you're running into more people in terms of just not being happy that people are around. But from a safety standpoint, it's probably statistically the most safe period of the year for avoiding a high-speed collision.
I agree.
To be devil's advocate, I think you only need about 20 or 30 feet of space to build enough momentum to cause a serious accident on a bike. That's just I mean, there's more people. Yes, there's less space to pick up speed, but
But I think similar to that, if you believe that, then having two chicanes at two random spots is not going to do anything
that's valid.
to solve that. But I think there are really two different things we're speaking of. There's managing the user experience, and there's actually looking at measures to improve safety and corridors. But I think I think it was a really great move when we went to directional on side door specifically. Like I think of that section where the snowmobile used to be. I mean, I think it was irresponsible for us if we would have continued allowing people to climb up at that point where there's a fast straightaway with kind of a blind corner where it was probably only a matter of time that someone would have had a head-on collision at that point. But those are things to look at when you are factoring in trail design.
Yeah. How do other people feel about what we're trying to manage here, like user experience? Matt, go ahead.
So I feel like we have a decent amount of good information, or we probably wouldn't be having the conversation to begin with, as far as user conflict and potential impact and whatever else. And I really do feel like this is, just like Mark said, it kind of a finite period of time, right? And we have this opportunity to create a learning experience for ourselves. And that's why I would tend to lean towards alternating days, because I feel like that it's a very specific thing to be able to advertise. Whether or not we can get that information in front of enough people in enough time remains to be seen, of course. But I feel like if you're gonna do it and the user experience is the number one goal, I think we can all agree that an uphill hiker and a fast downhill mountain biker is not a great experience for anybody. So it seems to me like taking 3 weeks to kind of give this a run and maybe figure out how we get the messaging out and how we enforce it and how we deal with people who show up to the top and get angry because now they got to go climb Baker's Tank or ride up the road or whatever it is, like all of these things are going to happen. And it's not like this is a concept that is brand new to Breckenridge, right? There's Centennial Cone and I don't know where the other trails you referenced. And I mean, so those kind of concepts are in place, and whether or not people agree with them, I think there's a little something to hang your hat on there that, hey man, we're just giving this a try. It seems to have worked in other places, and we're going to reevaluate, at the end of at the end of the fall and figure out a better way to do it next year. And so to me, I feel like if we're gonna do it, we may as well do it.
Now, when you think about just mountain biking and just hiking with biking, would you ever restrict it to just downhill? Or would you do both uphill and downhill? I think that's a problem we should think through too.
Yeah, I think fewer people would be apt to climb it. I think. I mean, to be honest, I don't ever ride Aspen Alley ever. I never go over there for this very reason, period. And I think a lot of people who know better feel the same way. Unless it's 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever the case, but whether that's important or not, I think it is. We can argue the same way that we were talking about slalom a couple months ago. It's a downhill mountain biking trail, period. Like there's berms, there's jumps, there's blind corners, there's switchbacks. It's a downhill mountain biking trail. So the fact that it's a beautiful trail to hike in the fall for 3 weeks, probably should get some attention. And I think it's worth addressing directly.
Could I ask, on option 3, how did you arrive at the restriction that you did, the time and the no bikes versus no, having an alternate? Because it's really not an alternate, it's just restricting bikes, but there's no section that restricts pedestrian use. So it's not really alternate. And I'm just curious how you arrived at the 3 weeks and the time slot that you did.
I think that was discussed at your meeting, Catherine, with Duke about, or is that Mark's? I think
Go
we're
ahead.
just, no. Dave, I think we were just trying to come up with some options and what made sense and giving those hikers an opportunity.
Yeah, no, well, I don't, the option 3 was really not about alternating. It was more about just for 3 weeks, let's just tell bikers to essentially go somewhere else. But we will give them the option if they really want to go early in the morning or in the late evening when 99% of the tourists
Yeah.
won't be there leaf peeping, that they could go through at that point in time. So that's essentially my understanding of it. Yeah.
So wouldn't it stand to reason, though, that if that is the case, that maybe it would be, even if you had maybe a smaller window, but in that outside window, you would say it is for maybe a larger window for hiking, but a window where there were only bikes. And that way you would, I don't know. I just throwing it out there. Yeah.
I reached out to several of the hiking groups with the senior centers to get some feedback from them, and almost all of them were interested in the option 2 rather than 3, where you have alternating days. That seemed to give both groups an opportunity to be there during the main peeping season. One group, though, did like the idea of the hours, because in their opinion, bikers are more likely to be out earlier than the hikers. And if there were separate hours for the two, I didn't know the details of making it hiking only for that period of time, but this would imply certainly that before that hour, bikers could go. And that was kind of what that group was saying. But, and I also talked to hiking buddies, and again, the alternating days was what seemed to feel fair. It was fair to bikers and fair to hikers, and they wouldn't mix. I got a couple of comments that because of the parking issues, that we ought to have our buses stop. If we're going to make it, especially if we're going to make it all downhill, have the bus stop either at the Sawmill museum level, if it's going to be both ways, or at the top if it's only going to be one way, to get rid of some of the parking issues, because it is hard to park there. And a lot of tourists are not going to park near the troll and walk that extra way, because they're just not going to do that. Education was also a big comment that I got, and enforcement, to have somebody stationed at both ends to help the people understand the why of what we were doing, and that it wasn't optional.
I think if you do anything that does sort of help people make different choices before it's too late, you know, even if you're at the top of, you know, right at Baker's Tank, and it would just have a simple sign that said bikes yes or bikes no on the day, and just have just so people could make a different selection before getting stuck down at that parking
Yeah,
lot.
like some preventative signage,
Yeah.
whatever's, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
I was also thinking, well, I guess I'll just start it. Well, okay, no, I won't.
Oh, boy.
Oh,
It's on the soccer team.
okay. I was actually wondering, like, I think what we're gonna get is, obviously, we all acknowledge we're gonna get pushback whether we do nothing or everything. So I am wondering if we could maybe put up like a QR code or something that with like full information about what that we are considering a multi-directional trail, 2 trails, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, not promising anything, but just acknowledging, or maybe that's in the article that we asked the Summit Daily to do or something. But I think giving people as much information as possible that we're really taking this seriously, and that we are exploring an uphill trail, and it's more complicated than just putting one in, I think is really important for people to understand in our communication strategy. That all being said, I'm in favor of option 2. I was actually really surprised by the people I asked were pretty unanimously in support of every other day, hikers and bikers. I think bikers who live here know not to do Aspen Alley on a Saturday in September. And I think restricting that for them would be just fine. And I think having the knowledge that this is a day where I can safely hike on this trail, or I can safely bike on this trail and not be surprised by a hiker, is comfortable for both parties. And obviously we're not going to be able to, what?
I was just going to ask you, could you clarify what you think about if it were biking, if you would, make
Oh,
it
I would say
downhill only?
no biking uphill.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say it'd be
Yeah.
downhill only. I think it's the same problem as running into a hiker,
Sure.
as running into a uphill biker. And Illinois Gulch for an uphill biker is a pretty easy alternative. I obviously understand why you wouldn't want to do that as a hiker, but as an uphill biker, I would prefer that on any day.
Yeah.
So, that would be my perspective. But I do think that giving the every other day, or even day, odd day, however, like we end up doing, I think even an odd kind of does make sense. It's easiest to understand and remember. Gives the comfort to both parties that they're going to be safe on that trail, and that they aren't going to have any unintended consequences. Although, of course, we can't enforce it. So there probably will be some folks that are on there on the wrong day, but that's just how it is. I do also wonder, like at first having not wanted anything to change on Aspen Alley to now considering maybe making this longer, but I do kind of wonder about like if September 13th is too late to start this policy, or maybe we consider expanding it. I know, I can't believe I'm like saying that, but I actually think maybe looking into earlier in September might be a good idea.
Alex, do you want to speak to that? Was informed by the
By all
data?
trails, yeah.
Yeah, that time frame was informed by an All Trails app. So, you know, not the most concrete science to show that
Yeah.
that is the best time frame, but it was a massive spike. Like the trail is like typically the 6th or 7th most popular trail year round. And then from September 14th through October 7th, it is by far and away the most popular. And it goes from like 7,000 clicks per week to like 40,000. And again, this is just one app telling us this. We actually have counters now at the top and bottom
Mhm.
of Aspen Alley to have a legit database that we manage. So we'll be more well-informed after that, but of course, we don't have any data from Aspen Alley in the past. So
Yeah.
it's all based on that Aspen Alley, or sorry, it's all based on that All Trails.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that. And I mean, I do agree with Jay that like, it's gonna be really difficult. I actually hadn't thought until I read the packet that we were only talking about such a short period of time. Because it's gonna be a big change for people to understand that this is a trail you can only use on certain days. And so I think we're gonna run up to some real problems with people just feeling like they're really caught off guard and not having them time to kind of internalize what this means. I don't think I'm advocating for this to be all summer long, but in some ways it would almost be easier if it was always
What-
one way.
And that's a great point, Kristen. Like if we went for the even and odd and after this 3 or 4 week trial period, would it be like another time for public comments of like,
Yeah.
you know, actually that was really nice. I enjoyed that,
Yeah.
even though it's on even and odd, it was such a better experience.
Mhm. Yeah.
Matt, with you as representing a local writer, would you be more enticed to write it if you knew Tuesday is downhill?
Ride it if I knew
Yeah,
that it was safe to ride.
yeah,
I don't feel like it's safe now.
okay.
Could we also encourage like the tourism office and all the places that advertise Breckenridge in the fall to start emphasizing other places besides?
There
just
are other
Breckenridge?
aspen groves.
Yeah, and we do, Bobby. We
Yeah.
do. We work with them and we, for the last couple of years, and really trying to highlight in town close trails that offer a great experience.
The Aspen Alley.
Or it hasn't always been like this. It's been obviously an optimized trail, but yeah, we did it to ourselves.
Dead Man Alley.
Yep. I'm in favor of option 2 as well. I think that, I think I like the idea that you threw out there, but I think that knowing kind of how I would experience that, then I would just juice it right after I came through the slowdown part, right? It'd be like, okay, well, there's my technical section. Now I'm going to step on it. And Alex's point, I think that it doesn't take long to get up to speed. So I think it's best if we kind of just throw compromise at both sides at this one. No uphill traffic. To Kristen's point, I think if we spread this out a little bit longer, maybe we do a full 30 days, you know, September 5th through October 5th or whatever the corresponding weekend is. Just so we have a little bit of runway coming into it when it's not so busy before it really kind of ramps up. And get the locals kind of knowing about it is not a bad way to kind of practice this and get the word out. But yeah, I'm in favor of option 2.
And maybe get the word out to the hotels and the short-term rental agency companies and things, because an awful lot of these people are here for the weekend. And that's their only time to do it. And if they don't really get the message and they're the biker that passed on the day that was the biker's day and is there on a hiker's day, they're going to be pretty unhappy tourists.
For sure. I mean, you can't win.
Right.
They're also
can't
gonna be unhappy if
For
they can't
sure.
buy a bike.
Thing I'll point out is it's 1.5 miles of hundreds of miles of trails. So you might have someone that's temporarily upset they can't ride it that day, but the reality is there's a lot of options that they can do. It's not like it's the only game in town.
Right.
List of options at the trailhead.
They might learn something that they didn't think. They might discover another trail that they weren't aware of and
Sure.
have this like, you know, great new experience and broaden their horizons too.
Is it easy for All Trails to temporarily put like a pop-up box or something on it when someone clicks on it?
Yes.
It's easy to just like turn that on and turn that off with them?
And Mountain Bike Project too.
Yeah.
About mountain bike project, but I'm sure it's probably the same process. I've done it on All Trails and I know it's easy. I'm sure.
Yeah. And we
you
could
can
like
do
give
it.
them a heads up and be like, these are our dates. We would like this pop up when people click on it.
Yeah.
It'd be huge.
And
I feel like it is.
Yeah.
And is it going to be downhill only for hiking as well as just for during this period to
Biking.
be the biking downhill only? Gotcha.
Yeah.
Chris, did you mention the downhill for biking part?
Yeah,
You are
during
in
that
favor
period,
of-
yeah, no uphill biking during this period.
Yeah, Catherine, can you use the mic just to, thank you.
Yeah.
That, you know, for September 5th, well, that would be just after Labor Day. You maybe want to start it Labor Day weekend instead, just thinking about the.
I do, yeah, I think we should start it at Labor Day weekends. And I think having a longer period actually gives us more information because people will have a longer period of, like locals will have a longer period of time to get used to this. I think having it for like 2 weeks and then taking it away is going to be extremely confusing. So I think if we actually have it for longer, it might be better.
Tony, I'm curious your take on that, if we extended it.
I think it's a good point. And overall, leading up to this meeting, I talked to a lot of my biking friends and brought this up and thought, ooh, this is going to be spicy. But they're like, oh, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
It kind of
I
makes
see
biking
that,
days better.
you
It
know?
makes
And
hiking-
so I was surprised. Yeah.
Have the option to, like, say it snows the first week of October,
We can just stop
to
it.
just call it then, right? Is that my understanding correct? Like, we have the flexibility to determine the length of
Yes,
the
with the Forest
management
Service.
decision. Yeah.
Bobby, what's your official, we're gathering official votes here, so what are you thinking?
Well, I'm like in the alternating days.
Okay, option
I
two.
think that satisfies both groups. They both get a better experience.
Okay.
I do have one more question about like staffing this and policing it, because I think that'll probably be potentially the most unpleasant part of the whole thing.
Yeah, well, we figured this out. If you have not shown up for a Friends of Rec Volunteer Day, right? You're in a ticket. You are our Aspen Alley Trail Ambassador. Yeah.
Just Jeffrey to be up there. Yeah, Ellen.
Or Ellen. I wouldn't cross Ellen.
I mean, obviously, no one's gonna get into a confrontational situation of like,
Yes.
you know.
And
Education, ask people.
yeah. Yeah.
I've had worse experiences with epic course marshals.
We did talk to our attorney Keely about enforcement. And she said it is possible. It would have to go through an ordinance. Coming from her though, with the first year of it, she did not recommend like fully writing tickets, and more on the education standpoint. We as staff realize this would be a big change, but I think user safety, user experience, and working with the public, I feel like this would be something we could work with and incorporate the Friends of Dillon Ranger District with their Ranger Patrol as well. And Summit County Open Space too.
Keely also expressed there wouldn't be any liability. I had asked about liability and there's no risk.
So Nikki, we did talk to Keely about that, and it doesn't increase our risk or liability.
Could we get the tourism office to have a flyer to give to every single tourist that comes in?
You know, that would be part of our communication plan, as the BTO would be part of that. And yes, I don't know if they would hand out, but they would, if people asked about Aspen Alley, they would be able to inform them of like, yes, odd day, this is a hiking day for you.
Give out flyers. Can we at least put a big poster or something in the tourism office?
I think that staff will be very diligent about making sure they're doing a good job communicating all this. It's very much on their radar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Sarah, my apologies. We should have had you, I know we're midway through making votes here, but please, now is better than ever if you wanted to offer your thoughts.
Well, thank goodness.
You manifested it.
I feel like maybe, I don't know, mountain bikers, when I cross another mountain biker, it's a lot easier to be trail etiquette, to maintain trail etiquette with another mountain biker than it might be with the hiker. So I feel like if we do go to just mountain bike days and just hiking days, I think you can probably keep it up though. I think there's
Great. Thank you. Okay, so we've got option two. David, tell us your.
Option 2, downhill only.
Okay, and Chris,
Option
option
two,
two,
downhill.
option 2. Jay, have you defected from your option 4?
I think I come from a little bit of a different perspective. You know, one of the things that Lucy hosted recently was a meeting of the minds at over at Fatty's with a bunch of retailers and restaurateurs and business owners. And from a greater standpoint than just our local riders, we are hearing that our guests are consistently frustrated. They can't get plastic water bottles. They have to, you know, if they're part-time residents, they have to change out their light fixtures. They're being told how to act and what is being like Breckenridge is. And, you know, there's a lot of a perception of the town saying, you must do this when you come and visit Breckenridge, and you must not do that, and you must adhere to exactly what ours are. And in general, a lot of those values are phenomenals, and they're things that we believe are core beliefs of ours. But what we're hearing from our business owners and the people on Main Street and people that engage with our guests is that we are losing the tourism dollar due to perhaps some of our decisions. And so what that has caused is not like regret on decisions we've made, but more of like thinking about future decisions that are ahead of us. And to me, this is one of those that, yes, we can get the word out to our locals and our bikers and our hiking communities here. They're going to be able to figure that out pretty quick. And if they come to the top of Aspen Alley on a bike and they're like, oh shit, it's an even day, they'll know, okay, well, if I'll bang it left, go to the tank and then come around and still finish my ride, or I can go up back up to 528 and hit up Larium that way, or whatever it is. But our guests that have been coming here year in, year out, noticing changes maybe in town, maybe this is the straw that breaks the camel's back, where they're just like, I can't ride this now. Like I where am I supposed to go? And I just see this as as being detrimental to our guests and to the, you know, to the ones that support our businesses, that support our town. And so I would be adamantly against this, even an odd day for a short period of time, because it's not consistent. It's not to purely to a local population. We have a very transient guest count coming in and out. And I think that where it's been effective, like I mentioned before, is when there's different conditions. And I think to one of your points of going, well, let's just try it and see what happens. I could see us turning off a lot of our outdoor enthusiasts that come here to enjoy those times. So that's just my stance.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah.
You bring a great lens, a broader lens from your town council perspective. So it's always nice hearing what you say.
So how do you explain, though, the drops everywhere else in sales tax and visitation and all that? Because it's dropping everywhere.
No, we are much steeper than all of our comparable set. Our occupancy is down 23% in July. Vale is up, Aspen's up, Steamboat's down like 4%. Yeah, I know.
Copper Mountain is way down. So the county is experiencing significant drops as well. So same thing with short-term rentals. And I'm sure I know that feeling of people, you know, sometimes you make a lot of changes. It gives the opportunity for kind of the folks who didn't love that to kind of air that as a potential reason. And it might be. I just wonder, you know, there's a trend that's happening everywhere. Most places, the high-end places are not. And that's also a national trend too. Very wealthy families are tending to spend more, and kind of that middle is not. But I mean, I guess that if we did the chicane thing, I worry that we'd have the same complaints from people who are like, I used to love this flow trail. It was so much fun. I could just, you know, soar down on my bike, or, you know, now we've got all these other rules, right? So it's still introducing rules. So I don't know if there's a good answer. Yeah.
It's
like proper messaging and presentation of of the reason. I think, I think the message that maybe you're talking about, like with the downcast lighting, is like, you have until July 15th, and then we're gonna start issuing fines instead of, for enhanced experience, we're gonna try this for 3 weeks. And hopefully you don't get angry about it, and we'll talk about it later. I think there's just an opportunity to do it well and an opportunity to do it poorly, and pretty much anything you can do really. But I think I think it's a good opportunity, and I think more big picture, whether or not we like it or not, I think we're gonna have to talk about this in more places sooner rather than later. And it's a good opportunity for a case study.
I agree.
Is it the idea of the nanny state? Are we turning into like a nanny state to our visitors?
Again, this was just one round table with, a dozen people sitting around just talking about it, but and it's been something that we've known, right? Whether it's, all the different things, and we've seen it through our resident sentiment survey that our part-time residents and our out-of-town guests are, rate us lower each and every year. That's, our net promoter score, and listening to Lucy kind of talk about what our occupancy levels are looking like and how they are based versus our competitive set, just gives you pause to go, oh, we got to make sure that the health of our community continues, and that, the tourist dollar keeps coming around and sales tax stays strong.
And was it occupancy that was down 26%?
That's correct.
Because the last thing I saw in the paper was 15%.
Yeah, I think that was for the whole summer. I think July took it on the chin pretty good.
So this was the month of July is what it's down. Thanks.
Of course.
My vote is option 2 with downhill only biking. As for the duration, I feel reluctant to expand it that long. I think my preference would be to stick with the 3 weeks in case there's something we're not predicting about this experiment that goes sideways. And I think having this scope of more 5 weeks feels too long to me. So that's my sense. I think 3 would be better. And then perhaps next year, if it proves to be effective, maybe that's when we expand the duration. But curious just on the duration piece. I don't think we got clarity on that from everybody. What are people thinking? What do you think,
My
David?
gut's with you on that, just for this first go round, because it's really connected to the leaves changing, which they will not have on Labor Day. And I can see the Labor Day argument, but I think this at least gives us some cloud cover that it is something we are studying because of what we experienced during those traffic spikes that are on the All Trails app. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Kristen, I know you had suggested it. So what do you, are you
Yeah.
changed your mind or?
With Labor Day.
Okay.
I just think that, I don't need to reiterate. I stick with Labor Day.
Yeah, I think 3 weeks makes sense to start for sure, with the option to review later, but I think that's a reasonable period of time, and kind of just based on what Alex said about All Trails, seems to be kind of hitting the critical moments.
Okay. Kristen, are you thought expanded?
Yeah, I would hold that line still.
Okay. Bobby, what do you think?
You're voting for the original 3 weeks? Is that?
No, the longer
Yeah.
period, Labor Day.
Can I ask Alex a question? Do we know if the hits spiked for the Labor Day weekend?
No,
separately?
they stayed relatively the same. There was like maybe a slight increase, but not that massive spike. Really happened September 15th through October 7th.
Well, then I would say Labor Day as well. I mean, it's a bigger visitation area time, and it gives us a little bit of time to get it right.
Jay, you're the tie-breaking vote here on the duration.
I would leave it to staff.
Oh.
Figure out what makes the most sense as far as getting the communications out and working with our communication department. We have 4 people that are working really, really hard, and trying to work with them to see what would be most effective.
Catherine, do you want to chime in on that piece? What you think about the duration? Yeah. No, good to know. What's our staff think?
I think we'd have to get together and talk about it. I think I could go either way right now with 3 or 5.
I think that means the chair gets a second vote because he went from there to there, not
Sure.
to you.
I think that's in the charter.
The one thing I'd point out is, we were going to bring this to the council in 3 weeks. And so part of the thought process is we do need some time to prepare, make some signs, do the outreach that Jay's talking about in that. So from that perspective, possibly having a shorter time frame might work a little better. It just gives us a little more lead time because we're talking, I think, council meeting is maybe August 12th, something like that. So that still only gives us a month to prepare, even if we start on, like the 13th or 14th.
It's a good point, Mark.
That's a really good point. I think I
Yeah.
would even maybe switch my vote for that because I think the communication piece of this is so important.
Right.
I think that's as important as what we're doing is
Yeah,
communication.
it
part of
is. Yeah.
I think whatever we do, it would behoove us to let people, to listen to people afterwards.
I
And
agree.
to really make sure they know to, tackle the people who feel like we're changing things on them, to let them know that their opinion's valued. And we want to know what they think of this process.
And I was speaking with a friend of mine today about this, and one of we were talking about our options here, but one of the things she brought up and was pretty passionate about was better community connection between BOSAC and the community. I guess we're not getting the word out when we have
That part.
Yeah.
Have devout followers here.
we have our open houses, like maybe we're just not getting the word out, or she was really thinking of like having some members of BOSAC talking like on a forum and then opening it up to communications from the audience as a more of a formal thing than just going from station to station kind of thing and having the question and answer period. But she's a longtime local and felt like there could be better communication between the
I hope
community.
you encouraged her to come to the meetings. And every single person that you mentioned who's not here right now should 100% come to the meetings and
Mhm.
say their piece and be heard,
Mhm.
because we will listen 100%. But
Oh, absolutely. I don't think she's alone in feeling like there's some distance between, because no, it's not like it's a full audience.
it is an open meeting.
That's their fault.
It's an open meeting.
And our communication voice is to town council. Right. Each one of us individually would probably not be a good voice directly to the community. Like we can have communication in the community, but our charge is to speak to council, and then council speaks to the community.
But don't you think getting an input from the
Yeah.
community to us
Yeah.
would help
lot
us
of chairs.
inform our
Our opportunity.
recommendations?
And I'd say all of us probably had conversations with our people
Yeah.
we know, people in the community to help inform what we're saying here today. I certainly did.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I did too, obviously.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this? I think, Tony, what do you
So
think?
it seems like we're leaning for option number 2. We're gonna stick with the 3-week period. I like the preventative signage options to make sure people are aware before they're getting to Aspen Alley. Possibly having some signage for alternate routes. If you're there, where else can you go? And we'll work with our communications team and wait to hear from what OSAC says. I do think an important part of the communication is also during this and after. Maybe when we have folks out there trying to help educate folks, maybe there's a short survey like, did you actually enjoy the hike? Was it nice? Did you like these restricted days? Maybe after it, we do it online, where maybe it's more of that local feedback, but I think it would be important to get that boots on the ground survey too, where we're getting that input from the visitors
Yeah.
as well.
Can we put that on like on the posts?
Yeah.
Just in your QR code,
Mhm.
maybe it's
Yeah.
that in combination.
Okay. It's
Yeah.
the survey. It's just a link to the survey. And then the preamble to the survey is we're exploring a lot of options. We're experimenting with this one. What do you think? So they know that we're thinking about everything.
And to Dave's point, just emphasizing how valuable their feedback is for sure.
I
Yeah.
also just think like tourism office, all trails, mountain bike project. It'll be easier to get the word out to locals through Summit Daily, social media, friendship, but but anyone who's coming from out of town is going to click on all trails or mountain bike project to get there. And so I think that part is so essential.
Great.
I don't have
Okay.
friends in this group, so.
Sure, and put it on the Breck OST site for the individual, for the Aspen Alley trail.
Yep.
As a.
Yep.
And some kind of
Alert,
trail
alert.
conditions. Given the right subject matter, it does generate quite a bit of activity.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. One man's junk. I mean, we could go for it.
There
Yeah.
you go. Great. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Well, that was good. Yeah. Okay, so next is other matters related to open space. Anyone have anything they want to bring up?
I just have a trail comment. And I hate to say it because I hate making trails not hard, but that ride off of the tailings pile, like from mini mine onto side door is a wreck right now.
Yes.
The route?
Yeah, the Rudy Rocky thing, it's just like chucks you into the tree on the left.
Okay, I'm really glad to
Well,
hear you
what-
say that.
Where's this, Matt?
Yeah, and come up
Past
mini
the-
mine across the tailings piles and there's a little steep
You're headed
thing.
west.
That little tactical kick up.
This makes me feel so.
Kristen's biking skills have been normalized.
Did it twice. Not gonna make it.
I went back and did it.
I'm like, I'm gonna make this damn thing.
I was.
Punch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to go through water, so then you get the root wet.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
totally agree.
True.
Not ashamed.
Get rid of the puddle.
Our mayor has mentioned, town manager has mentioned that spot as well.
Not afraid, I'm not in
But that's
favor of
been all of our
like
trucks.
making it completely sterile,
We
but
could,
it's like.
we could put a larger rock in front of the root where it'd still be
But
technical,
you're the,
yet a
you're
little
the
smoother.
professional.
Yeah.
You're the professional.
Just say sterile.
No. Can you say that? No.
I went like this.
I saw two bull moose jump over the fence into the rec center field yesterday morning. And I almost texted you to be like, are there children's camps going on right now? It was so bizarre.
So send more.
Yeah.
I had a staff question about, I saw it on Facebook, there was a lively conversation about the bottom of
Yeah.
the new Nightmare or Upper Nightmare. I'm just curious staff's take on how people were not apparently loving the new very bottom reroute. Apparently people love that horrendous steep alignment.
The new trail.
But just curious to get your take and like how you feel you respond, et cetera.
Yeah, so a part of me when the trail got finished, it was done with some volunteer efforts kind of late in the season, and it was a little rough. You know, there were some fall line routes. One of the corners was a little narrow, and it was something that we identified, and I talked to Joel about. Is like we need to go get back there and tune it up and make some adjustments. So it wasn't a surprise to see that come up, and I think we would like to address the alignment by just kind of minimizing, not taking out all the routes, but when you have a fall line route coming down the center of a trail and you're trying to turn on that, it's obstructing. So I think we can make some adjustments, and part of me feels a little proud of the community out there that enjoys nicely well-built trails, and they can kind of see when something's not fully constructed the way it should be. So, I think it's a tough balance of like having a rock or a route in one spot, but when a trail's not designed or constructed properly, I think it needs to be addressed, and we've got the time and the materials and the manpower to do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if we are online going back and forth with that, or
It was
we
my
address it
curiosity,
immediately, but
yeah.
we address it in our work schedule when we can. We've got a lot of things going on,
Of course.
and it's on the list, and we're going to get to it. Yeah.
Do you have a take on that?
Didn't reply directly, but there was a few comments kind of like defending our, like it'll write itself in, and to Tony's like a couple of people like, oh, it wasn't the best, but it was better than it was before. We felt like once we address it, maybe we'll make a post saying it's been updated, but we didn't feel like conversating directly with the people.
Oh, just admit it. You used your fake account, didn't you?
I hopped on my burnt account.
Okay.
It's totally fine. What's wrong with you?
Great, thanks. Okay,
Just a question, I guess, about our visitation before we came to the meeting today. Thank you for the laminations. Thank you for the maps. Thank you for additional insights. But I would request for BOSAC, if we could get, there was a lot of conversation about this map's not the right map. This is an old map. This is, for something this crucial and yeah, for Little Daisy, preserve. Yes. That we just kind of be kept higher in the loop. Obviously we can tune into council meetings. We can kind of attend that and get more updates. But I think that there was a lot of frustration from that visit. Some of it is what kind of the current progressions are, but more just the effort that we put into as a collective group that we're kept abreast of everything that's going on out there. So appreciate that.
yeah, thanks, Chris. Okay, thanks. Jay, council matters.
Yeah, a couple things. Had 3 council meetings since our last time we met. So yeah.
Hey, guy.
So I kind of went back and from June 24th, this kind of touches open space, the Blue River Pathways update. So we got some feedback back for the French Street to Watson segment, where there's going to be a bridge and a plaza just south of Northside Pizza and Avalanche Sports there, into where that Heyman Cabin is, possible underpass over at under Watson for that bike path. And then the Ski Hill to Riverwalk, they're looking at doing an underpass under Ski Hill Road as well. Just trying to be able to get those bikes in town using that bike path to be able to go and not have to, and make it a better experience. And
Ski Hill, I think,
right here.
at the
Yeah.
intersection with South Park, or
With Lincoln, Ski Hill and the bike path, like right behind,
Oh, yeah.
what building is that?
It used to be the drugstore.
Yeah.
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 where the deli is now.
That's right. So,
You wouldn't have to cross this, you go under the.
that's
street?
right.
Ooh, Sweet.
Yeah. So, and that seemed to actually save quite a bit of money whenever this gets implemented versus cantilevering over the river, which was the original option. We also got THK's presentation about McCain, and directly after that talked about overflow skier parking. Council was presented with 2 options, 350 vehicles on the school area parcel that, if you guys don't know, we did come to terms with the school district on that 10-acre parcel, where once the school district has 35 housing units, then the land is deeded to the town. Until then, we are allowed to use it solely, like it's ours, or we have the right to use. So council was provided with 2 options, one with 350 parking spaces on the school district land parcel, and then one with 500 spaces. And so there was a pretty good conversation about it. At the end of the day, council did feel that that was the sole option, even if it wasn't a great option, that was the way that had to move in the name of safety.
350 or 500?
500. Originally we had kind of marked track 12A, which I keep calling it the crook of McCain Access Road. The east side of the McCain Access Road in that crook, track 12A, as the overflow parking. That has since been kind of used for some some of the public works equipment and storage that got kicked out from Stilson from doing the Stables project. And so, it was seen by the majority of council that whether public works got moved to the school area parcel or parking got moved there, it was kind of, neither was a really good solution. And then we did vet some other spots after the fact. We looked at, there's a pretty large area by the Soul Center and Vista Verde that would be, looked from a map wise to be a option for overflow parking. I guess Vail Resorts and the town mobility doesn't really want to split the overflow reservoir parking into two different spots for just logistics, guests confusion. They're hoping to keep all 500 spots together, and so that and plus some untested soils were kind of eliminated that as a candidate.
Can I ask a quick question? You said, what was the decision between 500 and 350 and how did you get to that decision?
So the decision by council was 500. And the way we got there was that at block 11, there was, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, up to 1,700 spots that were available on like our peak weekends. And I think there was 20 days in which we went over 500 spots on block 11 and more than that when we went over 350. And so it was seen that we were still bringing down the total number of available parking spaces from that 1,200, 1,700 number down to 500, and that 350 would cause either guest frustration or lapping around town and causing issues with circulation.
Okay, thank you.
And so it was seen as this is being presented as a temporary solution. At first, we were the proposal was to use reclaimed asphalt to make it easier to plow and clear and stripe. That was kind of asked to be brought back by council to make it dirt so that it at least felt less permanent. Go ahead.
Oh.
No. Okay. And then on the 8th, we had a de novo hearing for the South Gold Rush parcel for BGV. We talked about the skate park expansion and the dog park improvements, all of which are just very, very present. Obviously you can see what's happening. Long story short, I don't know how much I can get into that, so I'm going to skip past the Gold Rush, but with the skate park expansion, it's going to be twice the size, getting it closer to Kingdom Park's turf field. The dog park improvements are really going to help with drainage and there. And then the 22nd, which is tomorrow, we just have a really good discussion on neighborhood preservation, as well as we're going to have a new communications person onboarding to replace Brooke. So gives us a chance to re-engage open space with communication, really get the different departments working closely together and hopefully getting us to be closer to our community.
Great.
Thanks,
Jay? All right, so we now will go into executive session. So we say goodbye to our beloved run a tight ship here.
You guys are coming.
Thanks, Jeff.
Jeff.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for coming. Okay. Ready to read my,
You sighed like you're getting yourself sick.
get like a cough drop.
Did you want to take the?
Yeah.
Want me?
I can, yeah.
Okay.
You can start reading.
Can I? Think so. Okay, I'll start reading. Okay, I move that BOSAC go into executive session under CRS 24-6-4024E for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategies for negotiations and or instructing negotiators concerning a property that the town may be interested in acquiring for open space purposes. So now I need a second, or I'm sorry, no, we vote first. My apologies. Are all in favor of going into executive session? Great. Yeah, raise that. Okay, great. So now I need a second to go into.
I'll
exec-
second.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Remember, we changed this because Keely spruced it up, just to remind everyone. Okay. So it is July 21st, 2025. The time is 7:30 p.m. For the record, I am the presiding officer, Nikki LaRochelle. As required by the open meetings law, this executive session is being electronically recorded. Also present at this executive session are the following persons: Tony Overlock, Chris Kulik, Catherine King, Alex Stack, Mark Truckee, Jay Beckerman, Bobby Zanka, Chris Tunnell, Nikki LaRochelle, David Rossi, Kristen Joyce, and Matt Powers. I caution each participant to confine all discussion to the stated purpose of the executive session and that no formal action may occur in the executive session. If at any point the executive session, any participant believes that the discussion is going outside the proper scope, please interrupt the discussion and make an objection. Check.
Good.
Good. Oh,
Recorded.
yes. Okay, I now move to adjourn.
I second.
Great.
Nice work.
Your job.